I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy and my heart too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance, the sacred dance of life. I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift up others. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that ensnares. Free my soul, that we might dance, and that our dancing might be contagious. Those words are from Hafiz, a Persian poet of the 13th century, and he summed it up. He's singing my song. I like to say he's preaching my gospel. It is so easy to turn on the news or to listen to friends in challenge or strangers who are facing oppression, or to sometimes to look into the mirror at our own lives and to be so overwhelmed by all of the, what we could just call what it is, bad news. To think that that's the whole story. My son, Jacob, the guy who co-wrote The Journey of a Thousand Dogs with me, said something so poignant. And he couldn't even understand why I asked him to stop and just reflect on that with me a little bit. He said, you know, Mom, most of the kids in my class don't like school lunch. And most of them don't like our physics teacher. And there was an uproar about that. But sometimes I have the feeling that most of the kids in my class come in and they're asleep until they don't like something. And I said, Jacob, I want you to take a minute and ask yourself why you noticed that and what you would prefer. And he thought about it, and we both agreed that while the school lunch might not be so great and the physics teacher might be a bit strict, the ideal would be to be awake to all the beauty as well as the challenge, so that we can have a balanced experience, so that we can bring the best and the most of ourselves to the most difficult parts of our experience of life, this dance of life, and to the most joy-filled parts of this dance of life. And so when I accepted the invitation from Chava, who I thank tremendously for the opportunity to share with you this morning, I had this idea of how I would go about this. I had just read that poem, that those words from Hafiz, and I knew that's what I wanted. That's my theme song, at least for this moment, remembering to dance the sacred dance of life, regardless of what I face and we collectively face as human beings at this time, at this part of the dance. And my idea was to raise a series of questions. I wrote an outline. It's a really good outline. I could show you in the chat. But to raise a series of questions and then to seek out scientific proofs, psychological studies, to substantiate my theories, my ideas. And as I sat down to do that, and I found a number of interesting and worthwhile sources, what I've realized is that I don't want to try to convince you of anything. I don't want to try to psychologically strong arm you into seeing things the way I see them. I just want to share my perspective. And the best way for me to do that is to sing, is to share my songs. So what I'm going to do for the next little bit of time, what is typically known as the sermon slot, is I'm going to share some songs with you, and I'm going to share the inspirations behind those songs. And I'm not going to try to convince you of anything. You'll draw your own conclusions. You're intelligent people. You are free thinkers. And you'll take from this time together what you'll take. And I hope that it will be something that puts a bit of pep into your step and that eases however you choose to dance the sacred dance of life. So this first song is actually a story song. It's inspired by a tale of someone who lives in South, or rather I should say lived, in Southeast Asia. And this is a story rather than a biographical account. I don't know that this occurred to anyone, but I'll share the story as it was shared with me. The person went out one morning. They decided that rather than having breakfast immediately after waking up, they would go out and enjoy the fresh air and stretch their bones and their muscles and then come home and continue with the day. And so this person stepped out of their home and they began by admiring their garden and waving to the neighbor and starting out on a walk. As they walked, they could feel that the walking was something of a challenge to their body on that day. Perhaps there were hills and perhaps there was mud in some places. And part of the walk was a challenge, and part of the walk were opportunities to admire flowers and to just stand still rather than walk and see the blue and the gray and the white of the sky. And as this person walked, enjoying and also experiencing fully the highs and the lows of that walk, they heard a familiar sound. And their heart began to quicken its pace. Sweat broke out over their body, goosebumps. And they knew that the only wise thing for a human to do when they hear a tiger growl is to run and to pray. And so this person took flight, ran as fast as they could away from the sound of that growling, which also meant away from the safety of where their homestead and the other people were. But they ran and prayed and ran until they came to a cliff. And at this cliff, they realized that they had but two choices, and they were to turn and face this tiger or to go over this high precipice. And in that moment, they noticed that a patch of wild strawberries were growing. So they leaned down, they plucked a strawberry, and savored that wild, natural sweetness. I don't know that I would have had the presence of mind to stop and savor a strawberry in the face of a tiger and the possible necessity to jump off a cliff. But the metaphor is clear, the allegory is clear, and inspired this song. Trouble above, trouble below, trouble ahead of me. What do you know? Wake up in the morning, what do I find? Trouble is everywhere, but none can stay on my mind. 'Cause I've got peace like a river, love through the night. I've got joy like a fountain, I'm gonna be alright. Yes, I've got rhythm and harmony ringing in me. Love is free, peace is free, joy is free, free, free. Is there strife in the world? Sometimes strife in the home. Are you feeling a little lost? Sometimes feeling alone. Waking up at midnight. Do you remember your dreams? Riding a raft down a cool, gentle stream. You could have peace like a river, Do you believe we can have peace like a river and love from our souls? We can have joy as a beacon, guiding everywhere we go. Just let your heart beat the rhythm, let the anthem we sing be. Love is free, peace is free, joy is free, free, free. Don't you know that joy is free, free, free? Just because a thing is free doesn't make it always easy to come by. Joy is free, love is free, peace is free, and they are sourced, I believe, from within us, not from the changeable conditions in our lives and in our world. And when we know how to seek and to find the joy and the peace and the love within ourselves, regardless of the changeable conditions, we stand a much greater chance of bringing joy, love, and peace to the changeable conditions in our world, of standing up and being that which we want to see more of. And a case in point, I'm sure most of you were there. I heard some very young voices, and so maybe those people weren't there. But many of us, certainly the adults of us, were there a few short years ago when our experience of the world was nothing but one giant, constantly changeable condition. None of us knew what was coming next. I know for myself, mid to late March, I had to reckon with the reality that my way of living, my livelihood, was completely unavailable to me, at least what I had expected as my way to earn money and therefore buy food and therefore eat and feed my children. I'm a very big fan of eating and feeding my children. And I didn't know how I was going to be able to do that for the foreseeable future. And I needed a dark night of the soul. I needed to go into a closet and cry, and I did. I really needed to mourn the certainty that I'd had the day before, or rather the illusion of certainty that I'd had the very day before. And once I'd completed my mourning, I'd cried myself out, I asked the question, partially on my own behalf, but also because I realized that the rest of the world was suffering a similar uncertainty. And I asked the question of myself, but also to that unnameable, the sacred one we spoke about. How on earth are we going to survive this? How are we going to get through this physically, emotionally? And the answer that came, often the answers to my most important questions come in song form. So I'm going to invite you to sing and dance this song with me. This is a song with choreo that helps the lyrics stick for me. I feel like when I can dance a song, when I can bring the moods into my body, it has an even greater chance of remaining, of becoming part of my DNA, becoming part of who I am. So I invite you, as you're comfortable, as you're able, to participate in this song with me. I'll sing it once, and then I'll dance it and I'll sing it, and all the while it's an invitation to participate. Keep your heart wide open, though the waves want to push you around. You've got to keep your heart wide open until your faith brings you back to solid ground. You want to sing that with me? You got to keep your heart wide open, though the waves want to push you around. You got to keep your heart wide open until your faith brings you back to solid ground. Let's do that together one more time. You got to keep your heart wide open, though the waves want to push you around. You got to keep your heart wide open until your faith brings you back to solid ground. And I count myself so fortunate to have the wise teachers, but also the dependents of my children on me. So they're looking at me to decide whether they want to model their behavior, their becoming after my becoming. I'm a bit ahead of them in years and in the experience that I've collected. I wouldn't say that I'm any wiser. I've got more information perhaps, but even that's a question now, considering the access that we have to one another and to the rest of the world digitally. Nevertheless, we have this reciprocal relationship where I get to look to them to remember to play and how to be in the moment and how to be silly and how to feel deeply. And they are looking to me for stability and for a concept of truth, I think. Mom, what do you think about that? Mom, what should I do here? And it's an amazing gift and privilege to share my perspective with humility and to say, children, I don't know. But here's what I think based on the information I've collected so far. What do you think? And I am so grateful that my Baptist upbringing, the wisdom that I've been gifted from my mother, from my ancestors, has given me the opportunity to embrace language and concepts, and to also let go of some language and some concepts, and to have what remains be an awareness of sanctity, of preciousness in the mundane. I was taking a walk one morning and I happened across a young neighbor, very young, 6 or 7 years old, in their front yard, very early. And I'm guessing that their parents were thinking, it's too early. Go outside and play on your tricycle. And so we happened to see each other really briefly in passing. It was far enough from my home that I didn't know the child or their family. And for some reason, I waved, as I enjoy greeting the other humans I encounter in my days. I waved, and the little one didn't wave back because I'm sure they were taught about stranger danger. But there was a moment of connection, just mutual existence, appreciation, awareness. And that sparked this song. This song was a birthday present to myself a few years ago. My birthday is next week. And it's a reminder, day by day, moment by moment, when I can remember that I'm called to dance. I'm called to joy. And not only when it's easy, I'm called to the challenge of joy and the challenge of dancing. Sometimes, especially when it's hard, especially when to do so would be unexpected and might offer a perspective that would empower someone else. I don't know if you've ever heard of the concept of hallelujah anyhow. We'll talk about that next time. But it is rooted in the concept that life is not always going to give you what you want. And there will be trials and there will be tribulations. But can you say hallelujah anyhow? Can you believe in the sanctity of life anyhow? Can you show up in gratitude and reverence regardless of what you're presented with? I'm not saying I always can, but I believe that's part of our challenge in being here. And this song is called Ordinary Magic. Have you spent a lifetime looking to find a miracle or wonder that could change your mind? You ain't found no reason yet to believe, but maybe hope's got something yet left up her sleeve. Something beautiful, something natural, ordinary magic. Amazing that we have this chance to be here, to let our love banish fear, and let our days overfill with ordinary magic. Have you felt the sunshine on your face? And have you heard the bird's version of Amazing Grace? Have you stood upon a mountain and tried to number the stars? Did you know that perfection is who you truly are? Always beautiful, always magical, an ordinary magic. Amazing that we have this chance to be here, to let our love vanish fear, and let our days overfill with ordinary magic. Like wind chimes, a child's song, the whisper of wind in the leaves, the moonlight, the wide open arms of a sycamore tree. That's just ordinary magic. Amazing that we have this chance to be here, a chance to let our love disappear the fear, and let our days overfill with ordinary magic, ordinary magic. And just as I have my Baptist upbringing as a foundation on which I am living an eclectic spiritual life, in your church home, in your Unitarian community, you're creating an opportunity for your children and the adults and the community around you to have a foundation of faith on which they and we can build a life that calls us all to dance. As Hafiz says, so we can dance in a way that might be contagious. Imagine, I've been doing a lot of singing in community lately, and this last song that I want to share with you in my talk, sermon, whatever you want to call this thing that we've just done together, this last song is one I've been singing since I was a little girl. And I've returned to singing in community in the last few years because I am beginning to remember the power of singing together, the power of hearing our voices, and how that enlivens each of us and reminds us that we are connected to one another, connected to the web of life, connected to this earth, connected to the people we disagree with, and the ones who are causing so much disruption. We are all connected. And what if remembering our connection and singing that connection and dancing in a way that could be contagious helps them to remember, those who we perceive might have forgotten? What if our singing and our dancing It's part of the harmony and the rhythm that the rest of the world could rely on to remember the possibility of harmony and rhythm. And so I know that my work is in harmony and rhythm. And I don't know where your work is. Your work may be to stand up in the streets. Your work may be in the halls where the laws are actually written. Your work may be in a home with a young one. Wherever your work is, show up with your heart wide open, singing, dancing, and at least trying to be the joy that you want the rest of the world to experience. Because I know your heart. Without seeing you, I can't see anybody in this room, but without seeing you, without knowing you, I know your heart. I know that you want joy, love, and peace to be the reality, the experience of every other being on this earth. And perhaps a way that you can start to make that so is to foster the love, the joy, and the peace within yourself. So this song is another invitation to move and to sing. I bet you've heard it before. Thank you again for the invitation to be with you this morning. We'll sing a couple of more songs together, but I just want to take this time to tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to reflect and then to share. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I have got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. Will you sing Joy Like a Fountain with me? I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul.